Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims. Today we are going to talk beauty and what it is and what it isn't. We will be reading from Book 4, Chapter 13 on page 83. I did not know this then. I was in love with beauty of a lower order, and it was dragging me down. I used to ask my friends, do we love anything unless it is beautiful? What then is beauty, and in what does it consist? What is it that attracts us and wins us over to the things we love? Unless there were beauty and grace in them, they would be powerless to win our hearts. When I looked at things, it struck me that there was a difference between the beauty of an object considered by itself as one whole and the beauty to be found in a proper proportion between separate things, such as the due balance between the whole of the body and any of its limbs, or between the foot and the shoe with which it is shod, and so on. This idea burst from my heart like water from a spring. My mind was full of it, and I wrote a book called Beauty and Proportion, in 2 or 3 volumes as far as I remember. You know how many there were, O Lord. I have forgotten, because by some chance the book was lost, and I no longer have it. One of the most strikingly beautiful churches in the United States is the Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis in St. Louis, Missouri. You walk in, and the grandeur just overwhelms your senses. The altar and the crucifix is front and center down a very long aisle. The coloring is on point. The mosaics are stunning. Everything is symmetrical, proportioned correctly, and all the beauty found in there envelops you in peace, comfort, and harmony. Everything in your mind says, yes, this is very pleasing. I contrast this with a church I went into that was not far from my home when we lived in Virginia the second time. It was of the 1960s architectural persuasion. The building was just a vague polygon, no real form or clear identity. The entrance was not obvious. My family went there for a First Communion Mass, and as I looked around the church, I felt off, unsettled, and honestly grumpy. Like I said, the building itself was just a misshapen polygon, and for those who have forgotten, a polygon is a shape with at least 3 sides. All sides must be straight, and the shape has to be closed. So this church was not any understandable shape, which means it had no symmetry at all. There was no clear center. Everything was off. One side of the church didn't look like the other side. The sanctuary space had no real boundaries. The altar was not centered to anything because there wasn't anything to be centered on. The windows were odd shapes and nothing was proportional. It felt random, chaotic, and ugly, hence why I was grumpy. Now, St. Augustine most certainly read Plato, and in doing so, he would have read Plato's theory of beauty being measured by golden proportions. Numerous scientific studies have proven that symmetry and right proportions are extremely pleasing to the human eye. Even babies who cannot be taught these principles are drawn to human faces that are mostly symmetrical and properly proportioned. Even St. Augustine tells us that he wrote a whole book on this called Beauty and Proportion. Unfortunately, it has been lost. Even in his own day, he doesn't even know where it went. But as I was researching things for this episode, I noticed online that within the past 15 years, that people have been writing to convince us that asymmetrical things, unproportioned things, are actually where beauty lies. Why do they say this is true? Because of diversity. There's that word that has popped up all over, the great virtue of diversity. And somewhere in the 1960s, there was this push to make art and buildings asymmetrical and structureless. Sculpted art has become shapeless, vague, meaningless. Yet we are told that this is supposed to be beautiful, but it's not. And anyone who tells you otherwise is just lying. For something to be physically beautiful, it must have shape, symmetry, right proportions, and order. Why? Because actual beauty is from God, and God gives shape to things, and He orders things. He is not the God of chaos and confusion. Now, living things can still be beautiful internally while not being externally beautiful. Humans, no matter their physical beauty, have value and worth, and even a physically unattractive person can still have a very beautiful soul, and we would see them as being beautiful. An animal that has defects or is not that cute still has value and worth as a created creature of God, and so we can still love it and care for it. But with things that humans create, there is objectively beautiful things and objectively ugly things, and we all know it when we see it. This push to make us accept that objectively ugly things are in fact actually beautiful is to deny what our reason, our senses, and our instinct tells us. Nobody is drawn to a pile of trash because it lacks shape, order, symmetry, purpose, and meaning. Everybody is drawn to a magnificently sculpted piece of art like the statue of David or the Pieta because they have shape, order, symmetry, purpose, and meaning. So don't let the world try to confuse you, Catholic pilgrims. We are made in the image and likeness of God. We truly do seek out the good, the true, and the beautiful because God is those things. And so we will know it when we see them because they are written on our hearts. That is all for today. I will see you soon. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.